Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. As you know, sludge holding tanks 1 and 2 had to be refinished, and the existing mixers made by Flight. Oh, by the way, my name is Phil Pachansky with the Flight Corporation. The 2 mixers are Flights, and they're pretty big mixers, are 4670s. The mixer mass system for each mixer are being replaced because they tend to get corroded after a while, even though they're stainless. So we furnished the 2 mixer mass System 4 systems plus 2 Thern portable Davit cranes. So I'm going to talk about the mass systems, and hopefully we'll get to watch the video on the Thern crane. This should only take a minute. The mass system has no moving parts, so there's no maintenance. What I passed out to you is the O&M manual, operations and maintenance manual. And in tab number 2, 3rd page, you'll see it describes the Flight System 4. Basically, there's a floor pedestal mount that's mounted on the floor of the tank. There's a upper guide bar bracket that's mounted at the top, and that's right underneath the hatch cover. And the mast itself is 4-inch by 4-inch by 3/16-inch square tubing, stainless steel square tubing. This is between the bottom floor mount and the upper guide bar bracket, and it's a single system, and the mixer just slides right down and slides right up. Since the mixer is so big, you need something to pick it up and lower it, so thus we use the crane. The next page shows all the components. There's just a few components to the mass system, very simple. Since the tank is so deep, I believe it's 27 feet, it does need to be supported in the middle, so there are 2 intermediate guide bar supports in there. So that mast is really rigid. When we finish here, after the video and the questions, we're going to go over to tank number 2, and we're actually going to look at the crane pick up and lower the mixer. And we've been requested to actually take the mixer out and swing it around so we can show you how it comes out of the tank. Basically, that's it. There really isn't much to talk about the mass system itself. The mixer, you have several cranes now with mixers out there, but with the mixer, the important thing is to have efficient mixing. So if you can look at the top of the surface when the mixer is on, you can see the little turbulence, that's what's mixing. What is not mixing are the dead spots. So you actually can adjust the height of the mixer. And I understand that the crane will be used to adjust the height of the mixer up and down to get efficient mixing. Also at the top, and I'll show you when we go out there, there's a half moon and at the top, and there's bolt holes in it. You can physically take a bolt hole out, or the bolt out, and swing the mixer around a little bit and change its angle. And then put the bolt back in so you can get more mixing. And trial and error will get you more efficient mixing.
And I think that would be after you probably take the mixer off and then rotate that, or is it with the mixer on it?
The mixer can be on it. It can be on it. This morning, the problem of rags came up. I don't know if there was any ragging on the mixer before. There was. There's a shroud on the mixer. If ragging really is a problem, what happens is the rags get stuck between the impeller blade and the shroud, and it prevents the propeller blade from trying to spin. So the motor's going and begins to overheat. There's what we call a mini cast unit in the control panel, and a flow leakage sensor in the motor of the mixer. So if it tends to overheat, the thermal sensors will trip the alarm in the minicast, shut the mixer off, and an alarm goes to probably SCADA or PLC.
So you have an alarm locally?
You have, I don't know if there's a local alarm.
Yeah, when you said mass, that's what I thought you were referring to.
The controls for the mixer, I know it's the existing I/O, so all we're doing is, it's the same screen that you're reading, nothing's changed in that respect.
One question, please.
Yes.
You said you have leakage and thermal control?
There's leakage for the seal, and then there's thermal sensor.
Yeah, we like your flight mixers very much. This isn't a negative comment, by the way. But we've had some problem with the seals. And with this particular application, can you comment on the seals? And sometimes you get a little bit of moisture, and with the cast, it sometimes gives either nuisance alarms where you have to take it back to you and get it resealed. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, seals can fail for many reasons. The liquid could be corrupt. It could attack the elastomers in the seal. If something is in the liquid that we didn't know about. The seal itself could get warm because they are two spinning surfaces, so they do wear eventually. Other than that, there isn't much to the mechanical seal itself.
We were told by one person from Flight, I don't know if this is 100% true, that some of our mixers in our aeration tanks to only put about 80% of level oil in because it's sometimes too high a level, and that's what I'm referring to. I was wondering if you could comment on that.
I just heard that recently also.
Any
Yes,
comment on that?
you shouldn't overfill the oil. 80–85% is a good figure to go for. Okay, because that could cause some problems. Plus, because you have expansion in there, and if you overfill it, the oil has to go somewhere, and it's going to go where it's not supposed to. So then you have problems.
So at 80–85%,
Yeah,
no problem, get
100%.
full
It doesn't have to be
and
accurate.
leave it around
Yeah.
that ballpark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also in the mixer, it's important to maintain it, and it's very easy. You just check the oil every 3, 4 months, 6 months, depending how often it runs. You just take it out, and you can. What I recommend is you take a straw, you put the straw in the oil in, put your finger on it, then draw it out, and then you can put it in a little cup or something. If it's clear or it looks dirty, you have to change it. If it looks clean, you're good. You're good to go. But if you take the mixer out, it might be a good idea just to change the oil while it's out anyway. Wouldn't hurt. It's like an automobile.
Do you folks expect, a lot of times we have like a full load lamp and we break up and it goes into overload. On your insulated factory motor, do you have like a 1.35 or 1.5?
1.15 service value.
1.5, so
Yeah, that's standard. Yeah.
sometimes a
Plus
little
it's-
higher.
Plus, well, it depends on the motor. These are the submersible motors.
Yeah.
So they're submerged by the liquid, so they're being cooled already. Yeah. So as far as the rags go, if it really is a problem and you can't put up with it anymore, what you could do is you could take the shroud off the mixer. This will minimize the event of ragging, but you do lose some efficiency in the mixing.
Most of our rags end up getting encapsulated around the motor part. We don't get them caught around the impellers or around the shield. We get them, they tend to get caught on the motor on the way in through the pump. They don't necessarily, they usually pass through. They just get encapsulating the whole.
Conglomerate.
And the cable, because there's a cable there, so the cable starts building on the cable and it sloughs off onto the motor and then twists around the motor. So it ends up, what we've had in the past is hitting the thermal. Because the motor can't cool because it's covered in rags.
We have forecast failures from flight mixers in the last 2.5 years, and that's why Mike and I asked this question. And the shroud, can you go over that a little bit more? Because I found that interesting, because we might be experimenting down the road.
The shroud is put on for low submergence.
Yeah.
Okay, so plus it gives you more torque from the mixer with the shroud on. So if you take it off, you're going to get less torque, so you won't get as good mixing. But I've seen it have problems with ragging. And some other treatment plants actually have taken it off, and they can do with a little bit less mixing not to have the ragging problem. Because they were going back and forth every couple of hours to the treatment plant because the lines were going off. And that's a pain in the neck.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the mixer mass or the mixer itself? Like I said, once we see this short video, we're going to go out to tank number 2 and actually take a look at the mixer. Good.
Hi, I'm Amy Azal with Thern Incorporated, here to talk to you about the 5124 Davit crane with the electric winch on it. A few things to talk about. It's pretty simple. You will receive a breather plug with this, and what you want to do is install that breather plug at the highest possible point above the oil level. This is the gearbox, which has a fully filled with oil, an oil bath in it, so the breather plug goes in the highest point so you don't get a leak. Another thing just to kind of be aware of and inspect is some of the gaskets, just to make sure there's not a crack. And making sure your wire rope is installed properly is also important. You want it to be underwound, as you can see here. And then we just have a simple push button control. Up and down will operate the winch and pay the rope off or on. Another thing on the Davit crane itself to be aware of is you do have adjustability of the boom angle from 5 degrees up to 45 degrees, and that's a simple operation of the screw jack here. There is also a button here you can push to change directions, but it's very easy just to adjust that. Another thing to be aware of is we do have a booming section extension on this crane. So this boom has 4 position points, so you can adjust that accordingly to your pick point. And there's also, the crane can be rotated 360 degrees. So that's what this handle is. It's the rotational handle to rotate this crane to give you a little more force behind it. We do consider this a portable Davit crane. And what that means by portable is you cannot pick it up and move it just as is. What it is pulling all of these pins out, disassembling the components, and then you're able to relocate it to another location. That's pretty much all there is to the crane and winch. It's pretty self-sufficient. We send it already in the oil bath, just not with the breather plug, so there's no leak during shipment. And the rest is put the breather plug in and basically plug this winch in to wherever your power source is, and you're basically good to go.
Is that a natural breather or a pop-up pressure breather?
I think it's a breather, it's like a wire, you can blow air through it. So
Okay, but it's not one of those pressure ones that pop up.
it's not a pop, no, if you look at it, it looks like it's like a bunch of wires. crunched
Screen
together.
on the end of it or something.
Yeah, I mean, you can blow on it, so.
We have a lot of trouble with the exterior pop-ups.
And when we go out to the hatch right now, we're gonna be notching the hatch right now. There's gonna be a notch. You'll see that the mixer's coupled to the cable on the Davit crane. But you'll be able to, when we actuate the crane, it is a 2-person operation. You have, as the crane is pulling up, the mixer, you have to have, someone is taking the cable, the power cord that has a cable on it, but that is not that cable, maybe you can speak that as.
That's a support cable.
But it should not be picked, should never be picked with the
We'll-
support cable.
We'll show that when we go out to the site. What else I'd like to mention about the portable Davit crane? She calls it portable, but this is the largest one that they make that's considered portable because you can take it apart and put it somewhere else. Typically the cranes are smaller, so you can physically just lift it up off the pedestal and put it in another pedestal. So if you had, let's say 4 different tanks and you only wanted 1 crane, you just put a pedestal at each mixer, lift it up, just keep moving it wherever you want. But this one is so doggone heavy because the mixer's heavy. Now the boom has 4 positions, like Amy said, and it's fully extended. When it's fully extended, it loses its capability of lifting, but it was sized properly so that even though it's fully extended, it can lift the mixer efficiently. And we'll see that when we go out there. And when we go out there, I want to explain this support grip, support cable that's out there, not to be confused with the wire rope assembly on the crane itself. Okay, are there any questions on that? It's electric, by the way, guys. It's not a hand winch. It's electric. You just push a button and it does all the work. Okay, good. We're going to.
It's got manual capability, doesn't know?
I don't believe so. I don't believe there's a crank on it. Is there? No, there's no crank on it. So we're going to sludge holding tank number 2. You all know where that is? Good. This is a 2-man operation. One holds the cable and pulls it up with the mixer. You see the crane here?